This is the all-new Hyundai Kona EV, which with its 450km electric range is being pegged as the one that's finally going to make this whole electric thing happen here. With a range previously only seen on the likes of Tesla and Jaguar, with a price tag north of 80 grand, the Kona EV, with its starting price of €38,000, is suddenly one of the most impressive and best value options on the market. Today we're going to have a look at what, if any, sacrifices have been made to make that so, and infrequent charging aside, whether it still does all the things you need your car to do. We'll start, as we always do, around the back with the boot space, which is a bit of an unlucky draw because it's not a particular strong point of the Kona. At 332 litres, it falls short here of most of its electric rivals, most notably the Nissan Leaf, which offers a more generous 435 litres, its own hatchback sibling the Ionix 350, the e-Golf 340 and even the little Renault Zoe, which just pips it at 338. It does at least beat the BMW i3's 260 litres, and it's not that it's particularly tiny, it's just not especially huge either. You should still be able to just about fit the weekly shop in or a couple of cabin bags, and the rear seats fold almost completely flat should you ever need to carry any more than that. As for the back, the important thing to remember here is that, like the standard Kona, this is a compact SUV. Compact being quite an important word there, and those expecting SUV-like levels of leg and headroom will be disappointed. As a general rule, rear space in the back of these compact crossover type things are usually more comparable to a Super Mini than anything else. In other words, fine for kids, but adults, especially taller ones, are not going to have a good time. For height reference, I am 5'6" or 167 centimetres, depending on where you're watching from. That's my driving position, this is my legroom, and this is my headroom. So fine for a shorter journey, although I don't think I'd fancy a trip to Donegal in it either, even if you could get there on just one charge. Thanks to this nice bright grey upholstery, the front of the cabin is, I think, a much more cheerful place to be than the standard Kona. I think I might have given out about the dullness of that cabin, but I have no such complaints here. There's been some nice use of colour along the dashboards and the doors, which makes it feel a bit more interesting and like you're sitting into something a bit different, which in fairness you are. Other clues to those electric superpowers lie down here, where instead of a traditional gear selector you've got these buttons, which does give it a very futuristic feel. The handbrake is also electric, naturally enough, which does free up a nice deal of space along here, which Hyundai have used quite well. You've got some well-placed cup holders, a nice deep storage unit and another handy storage area under this cool floating shelf effect of the centre console. Now, it is made up mainly of weight-saving plastics in here for obvious reasons, so it's not exactly a luxurious finish, but it is highly functional and I think it looks quite smart. Everything is very easy to navigate, including this touchscreen display, which if you've ever sat into a Hyundai or Kia before, it will be instantly familiar. It's a very straightforward system to use, nice big icons with plenty of space around them, and there's not a whole lot to it, so there's very few ways that you can go wrong. There's also an extra EV function, which will give you detailed information about the battery usage and allow you to schedule charging. And that is a standard feature because at the moment there's only one trim level to choose from, which in fairness does come very well appointed. Highlights include 17-inch alloy wheels, heated leather seats, parking sensors, a reversing camera, automatic air conditioning, automatic lights and wipers, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, cruise control with a speed limiter and even a heated steering wheel. Noticeable in their absence, however, are the lack of LED headlights or option thereof, and at the moment in Ireland the only headlights available on the Kona EV are the slightly more old school halogen ones. We also don't get the head-up display or active cruise control that our pals in the UK get, and we don't like when they get things that we don't. So hopefully Hyundai Ireland will be bringing us more trim level options in the future. So on to what sets this car apart from the rest of the market, which is that incredible 449km range. In other words, depending on your daily commute, which a recent survey tells us is somewhere between 15 and 45 kilometres each way, let's call it 60 kilometres return for argument's sake, that means that in theory you might only have to charge this car once during your working week. A full charge should take about 9.5 hours on a standard home charger like this one, and according to our EV Box app, should cost about €11. Or if you switch to the night saver rate, you can half that again, for 400 plus kilometres. So as with all EVs, the savings are very attractive. Then if you were to charge it again on, say, a Friday night, you'd be free to take off to almost any destination you choose in this relatively small little island of ours, including a trip from Cork to Donegal, in theory. I say in theory because, like everything in this life, nothing is guaranteed. And that range can be affected by outside factors like the temperature, weather conditions, how many passengers you're carrying, and how much welly you're giving it, as is the case with most EVs. For example, the battery on this one is currently 48% charged. That's giving me a reading of 187 kilometers, but when I turn on the aircon, that drops to 177. But if you turn that off and use the more efficient way of keeping warm instead, which is the heated seats, that doesn't appear to have any effect on the range at all. Now, like the e-Golf, you can also adjust the force of the regenerative braking on the Kona EV, this time via flappy paddles on the steering wheel here. So if you want to try and claw back a few more kilometers from braking and slowing down, you can tap, tap, tap and increase that force. Now, you do feel that resistance in the drive. It's not a particularly pleasant setting to have it in, I don't think, but it still doesn't feel quite as sludgy as it did in the e-Golf. It's a bit of a hobby, this regen thing, I think, and one I think that I'm happy to leave to the enthusiasts. Now, all electric cars are very quick off the mark, as we know, but this one does feel exceptionally powerful, and that's down to an almost instantaneous delivery of almost 400 Newton meters of torque. And it continues to make smooth, speedy progress afterwards. The low down battery placement gives it quite a low centre of gravity, which makes for some very planted cornering, and that combined with that instant power does make it really good fun to drive. If I had one small complaint, it would be the slightly odd whirring noise that the battery makes at lower speeds. It's not overly intrusive, but still enough to make me want to put the radio on. And that is the Kona EV, the one we've all been waiting for, the one you'll only have to charge once a week, and the one that will allow you to do Dublin to Galway and back on a single charge. But is that enough for you? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Like and share if you enjoyed the video or found it in any ways helpful. And don't forget to subscribe and join us back here next week, where we will be reviewing a very non-electric vehicle. Thanks for watching.